Welcome to Hollywood Approved with Kristen and Yael. Each episode is an exploration of taste as we dive into the good, the bad, and the unexpected in TV and movies. Tune in for the celebrity guests, stay for the surprising recommendations. Plus, we're getting creative with monetizations and fan casting some of our favorites. This is Hollywood Approved. Hello, hello.
Yay!
Happy Friday.
Hello.
How you doing, Yael?
I'm so excited about today's guest. We have so much to talk about. Let's bring him in. I feel like people know him from a lot of different things, especially one of your favorite spooky season shows.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. We have Daniel Gillies. Hello, welcome.
Just adjusting my seat.
Hi.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, go ahead, Yael.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, let's just jump right on into it. You have a brand new movie out, Coming Home in the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get involved in it? What can you tell us about it?
So I just recently recruited a new agent in New Zealand, and she sent me over the script. And I read it, and I was suitably horrified, but also like incredibly inspired and ignited. And she told me that James Ashcroft, who was the writer-director, was going to be in the United States, and that he was interested in meeting with me. So I met with him, and I really liked him. And I asked to see some of his earlier work, and he'd done like 9 short films, and I watched the last 2 or 3 that he did, and they were just so stunning. And I was like, oh, I got to work with this guy.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
It was a Kiwi film. It was a New Zealand film, and I hadn't done one before, and it was just nice to do one in my home country that I thought was going to have real impact and was going to be really quite good.
Yeah. Can I ask what was your first reaction when you read the script to the story and to the character?
Well, I was stunned. Yeah, I was, as I said, I just said I was stunned. I've given this answer in so many interviews now. I just you're telling the story, but it was very vocal. I'll say that, and what I loved about it the most is that he led you in a given direction, and he sort of walks you through cinematic cliche base. He walks you sort of into a cinematic norm, rather, not a cliche, and he just swerves away from every trope. So every time you think you know what movie you're in, you don't, and that's what I love about it the most. It's kind of the thing I'm most excited to sort of dispel the myth of with this movie. Is I don't want to promote it as a horror thriller, because it isn't. Yes, it's the scariest movie I think in the last 20 years, but it's scary because it feels so real, and it really is imbued with some incredibly moving and pertinent themes,
So
I'd love to dive deeper into your character. I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into your character. What did you draw from getting into the character of Mandrake?
What did I draw from it? Well, I'm an actor, and I love to work, and I love to work on good things. And I think if you love anything, and if you devote yourself, with unbridled commitment to anything, you learn kind of like the limits of what you can do, and it helps you to grow. Like especially if that project, if the material is frightening, and it was frightening in the way that, not because it's a scary story, but frightening in the sense that you're not entirely sure that you're able to perform the role. So I drew from it. I don't know. I also drew from it an incredible sense of empathy towards men and women, particularly men of psychopathy. Well, men and women, but like it's mostly men who commit these kinds of crimes, And it gave me compassion for them. I do see it as a mental disorder. This lack of empathy. I look at it as like Tourette's or Parkinson's, whereas before I didn't, And so I guess it gave me a good deal of compassion Yeah.
Did you do any research into mental disorders, psychopathy, things like that?
Yeah, I did. I read an enormous amount about the psychopathy checklist, which was developed by this doctor in Canada, and I read too many prison reports and transcripts from court cases of men who have committed these appalling crimes, to a point where I actually had to stop. Actually, it was kind of nauseating. At a certain, like when I was alone in New Zealand in the cold and in this little apartment, and I was just thinking, I can only read so much of this, of this nastiness. It's truly, it's a disease of the mind, and reading will only bring you so much. That wasn't what really brought me the character.
So you said that it's not really a horror or a thriller. What genre how would you categorize it if you could?
I don't know. I guess you could call it, people use the word psychological thriller. I would remove thriller and call it a psychological horror, because it is this. I would call it a psychological horror, I guess, in the sense that it's engaging, but it is the stuff of nightmares. I mean, the thing that I was careful to, and so was James. He and I were both. We wanted to design something that felt like a situation that could really happen. And so the thing that makes Mandrake frightening, I think, is that you could meet him, and most movie villains don't. You're always subconsciously protected by the fact that you're like, I'm never going to meet. I would never meet that person. Whether it's Rutger Hauer in The Hitcher or Javier Bardem in No Country, like, they're so peculiar. Even though those performances are stunning and I love them, they're so peculiar and such anomalies. It doesn't feel like you would ever actually encounter them. But with Mandrake, he feels like somebody who could you could encounter. Anyway, why was I talking about that? I can't remember.
No,
So you were categorization, the psychological
categorization.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, it's really akin to a Michael Haneke film. It's more like a funny games. It has a very, it runs it has a sort of a mythological quality to it in terms of its simplicity and its structure. I mean, Wake Up in Fright, the Australian film from, I think, 1974. It has a lot of parallels with. Anyway, I don't want to sound too nerdy.
No, that's what we love. We love it. And going off, you were talking about the performance. Your character Mandrake kind of feels different from other roles that you've played before, and you've gotten such an incredible response from audiences who haven't really seen you in this way before. What is that like? And is that like kind of, does that feel like rare to find a role like this?
Yeah, that's really nice. It's really. I wish I could find another word. I keep leaning into gratifying because it seems to be the only. But I mean, it's humbling too, because it's just. I just feel incredibly grateful to everybody, to James, who took a chance on me, because there were many opportunities for him to turn around, and there were people at certain places in the journey who were telling him to not go with me because of what I'd done, because of the shows that I'd done. In some ways, the Vampire Diaries or the originals can be, they give you they gave me an enormous exposure. I'm so grateful to those shows for that. But in other ways, there's a negativity within the industry towards people who are in those shows. It's like, oh, they're that kind of actor, So my way of, I mean, I think this is my demolition of that image by way of Mandrake.
Yeah, it almost feels like, that was, your teen years, and now you get adult roles.
Well, shit, I hope it's my teen years. I'm 45.
No, now you just hit adulthood, and you've got a whole career ahead of you.
Yeah, well, it's nice. It's I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean, and like I'm excited to see, I'm excited to destroy that image of me.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the one. This is doing it. Definitely destroys that image and
Yeah.
gives us something new and exciting
Yeah,
to look at.
and especially because, and I think that this is the problem with our industry. Our industry is so flawed in that, well, one, it's not a meritocracy. It's not like the best person gets the role. It doesn't work like that. It's about the best person who was just in, the uh, Game of Thrones, or it was the best. It's the person who was just on Stranger Things, or it's the person who was just on the hot new show. And it doesn't matter how good they are or were, that suddenly everybody's saying, well, that person's exciting, and that needs to change. I see diversity changing radically. What I don't see changing is meritocracy. We need to start casting because to be frank, I was capable of this 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I was capable of doing this role. It doesn't, I mean, am I better than I was 15 years ago? Sure, I definitely am, but I could have come pretty close, I would say, to arriving at a mandrake. And I think the problem we have in our business is that we're not looking for the best people. I think the finest filmmakers in the world are, but they're few and far between. Everybody else is looking for something that they've already seen. I mean, you take someone like a Lynn Ramsey, right, who was casting for that boy in Ratcatcher that she made in 2000, and she looked at something like 2,000 boys before she cast that movie. Or Lynn Ramsey will look at thousands of people before she casts a film. And granted, there's a Tilda Swinton there, but and that's a little bit of a no-brainer. But she doesn't compromise there. I think it's why she's one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's fascinating. What do you think that people can do to support you or support other people who want to see those types of changes in Hollywood?
Well, people like me have to give real voice to that. Like I feel a sense of responsibility to that. I feel for the casting folks too, because they're compromised as well. They're not the ones who ultimately pull the trigger. They can make it. They can champion a young, well, it doesn't matter what age. They can champion a man or woman or anyone. For a role, and ultimately lose that battle, and they lose those battles all the time. I mean, I've been part of those battles, and I think we just, yeah, I don't know. I do think directors need to be more part of the casting process. What I think that, for one thing, I wrote and directed a film 10 years ago, and I never learned more than when I was part of that process. When you're watching your words being spoken by actors, even in bad auditions, you're learning about your script. Even in and they're teaching you what doesn't work in your dialogue. There's only upside to watching your auditions, and too many directors don't watch their auditions. And I think directors should watch every one. I mean, I really do. I know that sounds like a tall order, but there's a certain negligence about, like, well, she's great in that, or this will sell the film, or this, and I understand even the director is kind of powerless in the sense that, studios will have to make their money back. And if it's a choice between Scarlett Johansson and this incredible, Swedish girl who nobody's heard of but has done a mini series in Stockholm or whatever, who's going to get the role, and that's not to be disparaging anyway, but Scarlett Johansson, I think she's awesome. But I'm just saying, I want to see it change. But the absurdity of it all is we have, people online bickering with each other about quote unquote best actor of his generation, or and things like that, and you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Like what do you know about who do you know out what actor? We're discovering South Korea right now in the form of Squid Games, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been watching their movies for 20 years. Who are the finest actors from South Korea? Who are the finest actors from Kazakhstan or Morocco, or like there are, you don't know what you talk like. It's an interesting meme, that best actor of his or her generation. It's mostly people just arguing about people who've been incredibly lucky and are famous.
I mean, that is a great point of like, there's so much in the world, actors, directors, writers, entertainers that we might not even know or be exposed to. So
yeah, but it is getting better in that regard, because like if Squid Games has taught us anything,
yes,
if it's taught us anything, it's don't trust kindly looking old men, and that and that also, spoiler alert, and that also that the world is bigger. That we've been sort of lied to, in a way, that we've been taught that, oh, look, if it's subtitled and if it's not filled with stars that we know, and they're not all white or called Chris, then we won't be interested. And it's horseshit. Like we need, like, what I love about Netflix is it's kind of emblematic of a globalization that we're seeing. And so I do think, in a way, the internet sort of brought like, when I first came to LA and 20 years ago, people didn't know. I'm talking college educated folks did not know where New Zealand was on a map. They certainly couldn't have watched a movie with my dialect, in that movie. Like, that's the first time I played a New Zealander in 20 years. I've lived here 20 years. And, and it's insane to me that Americans are watching that, understanding it, not just the thrust of it, but little idiosyncrasies within the speech and everything. I think it is getting better, but it's got a long way to go in terms of, like, I don't know. I understand it's a business at the end of the day, but we need to start really casting the best for the best.
You are so right, and you're in a place where we agree, and that is why at the end of our show we fan cast things.
Yeah, we try to make them more inclusive, and just talk about artists that we love that don't get enough shine, that are not the typical always featured, always
the Chris's.
The Chris's.
Yeah, not the
not the Chris's. Well,
yeah.
No, go ahead.
What were you going to say?
You go ahead.
I really didn't. Look, if I had anything worthy to contribute, I'm sure this interview is probably a wash.
No.
This is great. This is fantastic. Shall we move on?
Sorry if I sound a little preachy, but when you're living in the middle of it, it's interesting. When you were living in, I mean, wasn't there? What was that? The movie about the drummer going deaf. It was kind of fascinating. Just recently.
Sound of Metal.
Thank you, Sound of Metal. And there was that older guy in there who I believe he's getting all kinds of attention. And I think he might have even received an Oscar nomination. But it was just like, it's so cool to see that, and like, that guy. Well, I mean, what is he, in the 60s or something? And there are men and women like that all around, and it's just, to me, that's what that's just really exciting. Also, too, that people need to be able to differentiate between a bad show or movie and a bad performance, because I get excited when I watch something garbage and I see someone really shining. I'm like, he or she's good in that. It's interesting. Say what you want about Shia LaBeouf, but he's good in those fucking Transformers movies. Like, he's good in them, and they're garbage. But he's really, really good. And it's interesting. You can kind of see. I don't know. I think we need to be more attentive to that. I think that the common thing to do, really, because we get blamed first, is if someone's in a bad thing, the performance is mocked, when really it's like, was it bad? Was it really bad? And kind of looking for those folks that are the jewels.
Totally.
Yeah. I think we see a lot of people. I mean, I know, before moving to LA and meeting people actually in movies, I think that you see a movie and you think you understand how it works, and people always blame a director or a writer for something that may not actually have anything to do with them, or you blame the actor
Oh yeah,
for things that actually are not their job.
yeah, definitely. It's amazing to me that a movie can get made successfully. And well, I mean, look, this movie was like $1.4 million New Zealand, or thereabouts. I don't know. I'm up. It's approximately that though. So what's that? Like 700,000-800,000 American? Not even. And it's getting all of this attention, and that's because it's brave and it stands on its own 2 feet. And um, and it has real impact. Like I defy anybody to watch this movie and forget about it. Whereas, most television, I can sit there or I'm watching, I can be talking to the kids, playing a game with them, looking at my phone, doing whatever. But like, this is not one of those films. Coming Home in the Dark is a movie that once you are beyond minute 12 or 13, without spoilers, minute 12 or 13, you have a choice to make. You can get up and go, or you're sticking around. But most people stick around and they're forever doomed.
They're forever doomed.
I don't care. I believe in the film that much. It's it's a nightmare. It's funny. Can I just answer one of your earlier questions? How would you describe this film? What category? I'd say a nightmare. It's an actual nightmare, and I mean that in the most affectionate and loving and respectful way.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, you sold us, so.
Wait, have you not seen the film?
No, I'm saying your performance. You sold it. It's a nightmare. The eyebrow. He's like, I know.
I was just worried that I might have spoiled something.
No. But so we don't spoil anything for anybody else.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our conversation about, what you're watching, TV and movies. What can you recommend for us? So the first thing is, what's the last thing that you watched?
So not last night, but the night before, I watched Tita, I believe is the pronunciation. Oh yeah, look at that, you guys.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, that was disturbing and wonderful, and I'm still thinking about the film so deeply. I have no idea really what was actually trying to be said, and that's not a failure of the filmmaker at all. One film I return to all the time, Lost Highway by David Lynch, is a movie that, I'll watch that movie several times a year. I still don't know what it means. I've watched it for a decade. I still don't know what it means, and I still go back to it. But there was something but you can always detect when there's a resonance, when there's something really special, in a film. And I've never seen anything quite like it. And I'm not quite ready to see it again because it's not Coming Home in the Dark it's got teeth that you wouldn't want to go back to in a hurry either. But this movie's more just disturbing. It's fundamentally disturbing, there's a quality of horror in it that is like a nightmarish fairy tale. You're a little bit removed from it. It feels a little like a graphic novel at times, But there's something about it that it won the Palme d'Or, at Cannes, and the performances are amazing. The lead girl had never done a movie before, which I thought was fascinating.
Wow.
I mean, she's mostly silent in it, so and the French love to do that. See, the French are much better than us at making films like that and going and thinking, I'm going to cast somebody who's never done anything, or I'm going to cast this unknown, or this. Like year after year, you see with great French films, sure they have their star system as well. They have many people who, like, often they're larger, more respected films. You'll see people you've never seen before. And anyway, I'm taking this off topic, but no, the movie is peculiar. It centers around this young girl who, I guess, she gets a titanium plate in her head when her father and she get into some sort of altercation in the car. She's a 7-year-old girl. He has a car accident. She gets a plate in her head, and I guess she grows into a very peculiar and potentially sociopathic individual. And I don't want to go any further than that in case I spoil it, but never seen anything like this film. It reminded me of Cronenberg. It reminded me of Cronenberg's films.
Yeah.
And Crash. It just had that edge of peculiarity. It's not as weird as, say, who's the director of Brazil? My brain. Anyway, it's not as peculiar as that, but it is a strange universe. I totally recommend it.
Oh wow. I mean, haven't seen it yet, but I've heard so much buzz about it. And that's awesome to hear that the lead actress, this is like her first thing. That's incredible.
It's amazing. She discovered her on Instagram, I believe. There was a woman searching for her and found her on Instagram. Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah. What was the last thing that you watched?
Last thing I watched was Doom Patrol season 3. Not all of it, just some of it. It's if you've never watched Doom Patrol, it is a superhero show, kind of. It's wild and wacky and out of this world. And the third season so far, I'm not sure how I feel, and I'm trying to remember how I felt after the second season or through the second season, because it's been like 15 years since season 2 in the before times. So I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it because I'm waiting for everything to like connect, which I assume it will do. But so far, some episodes are like fantastic, and some episodes I'm like, get to the point. Let's get to the point here. Have either of you seen Doom Patrol?
I haven't, but I love so many people in it. I need to watch it. There's like so many people that I love. Brendan Fraser. But the woman that was in Drop Dead Diva is in there. I love her. So,
Daniel, have you seen it?
I watched the pilot and I thought it had a really interesting tone to it, and I don't know why I didn't follow up. There wasn't any reason for not following up. I just maybe it's just the deluge of television that's available, and I just forgot. But I do remember watching the pilot and think it was really fascinating.
Yeah, it's weird and wacky, and if you like really ridiculousness coming out of left field, like that's the show. I personally prefer to binge it, so I'm really struggling with this week-to-week thing.
Oh yeah, that's the kind of show that I like, though. The ones where they're like the superhero ones that are a little bit different, a little bit off kilter. It's not just your typical Marvel DC, you know?
Yeah. All right, Kristen, what about you? Last thing you watched?
Last thing I watched, Lock and Key season 2. It was awesome. Do you watch the show, Daniel?
So the reason that I don't is that I got very close to a role in that, and I don't like to. I was very close to a really cool role, and I don't want to watch anything that I got very close to.
I feel that. I will say it's very fun. You know, the magical key.
I liked it. I wanted to be in it.
He's like, I want to. Yeah, I mean, So the second season is really fun as well. They go a little bit darker. They go into some of the backstory more of like where the keys came from. How do you make them? We get some twists and turns. I think what I just really like about the show is that you can tell the writers pay so much attention to detail. Where like if they bring something up in like the first episode of like, the first season, in season 2 they're talking about it and they're addressing it, and like I love when there's like they're really building the world and everything matters and is important. So
they've tried to make this a few times. I think they made a Lock and Key pilot once in 2013, like years ago.
Yeah,
might have even, and then they tried again. It was, I think this time they've successfully got off the ground. Actually, I think a friend of mine, like a fellow parent who has a kid in my kid's class, saw me and was talking to me. I think she might have spoken to the execs to say, you should look at Daniel, and that's how I actually got the audition. And I loved the pilot. I loved it. I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I love that world, But yeah, it's out of bitterness and resentment. I do not watch that. Just
out of that bitterness and resentment. I feel that.
Is there a length of time that you will wait and then come back? Because it's really good.
No, I'll never see it. So if I get really close, no, Lock and Key, I think I can watch that. That's fine. But if it's a real heartbreaker, I'll never see it. I don't want
Is
to
there
know.
is there any that you could share that you're like, I will never ever watch this ever?
Yeah. So I read for Boardwalk Empire. I tested on it, and I showed up, and you know what? I'm not going to. I don't want to be disrespectful, so I'm not going to describe the casting process, but something happened there, and it was I was unlucky. Let's just say that. Like, I wish I could say I dropped the ball, because I can actually handle it when I drop the ball. But this was an occasion where I didn't drop the ball, and so I'll never watch Boardwalk Empire. That's a show I'll never see. Because of my dark feelings towards it. I'm sure I'll find forgiveness and turn around someday, though. Oh my God! Look, I got to tell our listeners. First of all, these amazing, charming women asked me beforehand, what things do you go back to, and I've already named something that we weren't able to get Lost Highway. We were in order to conduct the interview. It's like they asked me several sort of pre-questions, and during the course of this, I've been able to answer them. I'm going, oh well, of course, that show. I've been watching that, and like, here's anyway. So, but I do have to ambush you guys with, while we're here. I'm sorry, but you guys have to watch. And I know it just didn't get much viewership, and you guys probably saw it. And I'm sorry if I'm poaching your next question.
Oh no, go ahead.
You have to watch The Girlfriend Experience if you haven't watched it. Did you guys watch it? It was
I
on
watched
Stars.
the first season.
Yes, the first season. So I've only seen the first season. I started the second, and I was too businessy. I couldn't kind of do it. I got about 2 episodes deep and wasn't into it. But that first season, with Elvis's granddaughter, whatever her name is, Riley Keough, I can't remember her
Something
name.
like that.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember her name. She's really, really good. But that first season of The Girlfriend Experience, holy shit!
Oh
Watch
man!
it. Oh my God! It's an amazing piece of work. So sorry, I had to just drop that in there.
No, I love it.
That's perfect. That'll be my next binge watch.
I just want to say I'm going to join you on this Boardwalk Empire boycott, and I will also refuse to watch it.
No, don't
for
do
you.
that. Watch it.
I'm not going to watch it anyway, so
Right, same.
we're here for you. Getting into the next one, what is a show or movie that you just discovered?
So yeah, Girlfriend Experience. I'm sorry.
Girlfriend
I'm
Experience.
so
Perfect.
sorry. I should have just been patient. This is
Nah.
me being
Casual.
premature.
So then, Yael, what's something that you just recently discovered?
I just discovered this film called Ageless Love. This is based on a true story. It is this story. It was at the festivals, and it's allegedly there is a good chance of it getting nominated for Oscars and Golden Globes. But it's the story of someone named Yael Schwartz. I want to clarify that is not the same name as mine. Yael Schwartz, not Yael, who was like 24 and just out of college, and fell in love with this widowed woman who was 38. And at the time, it was very controversial, and they were both of Jewish background. And so it's this really just beautiful story about this couple and what they went through, and how, the day that she died, he went and got his gravestone to also say that date, because without her, like, that was the day that he died. And it's just such a beautiful story. Ageless Love.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah.
Kristen,
what about you?
What about you, Kristen?
Maya and the Three on Netflix. Jorge R. Gutierrez. Brilliant
Wow.
artist, creator, storyteller. Oh my gosh. I wasn't even gonna watch this because I was like, we're watching so many things. Like, it's like something I need to cut something, right? And at the last minute, I was like, let me just check it out. And I was like, this is phenomenal. Like, one of the best shows I've seen this year. And I know you mentioned your kids, Daniel. They might enjoy this. It's about a Mesoamerican princess who has the heart of a warrior, and she goes on this mission to fulfill an ancient prophecy and save humanity from these vengeful gods. And Jorge R. Gutierrez also did like the Book of Life and El Tigre, and all of what's really cool is he has so many Easter eggs to those projects in this, and there's like characters that connect and are related and things like that. So he's basically building out this like huge cinematic universe of like Latino culture and like this beautiful, just like unreal, like Mexican influenced animation. I like cannot rave enough about it. Like I was shook by like the story, the emotion, the the Latino actors that they had in there. They had everybody: Rita Moreno, Gabriel Iglesias, like Zoe Saldana. Like everybody was in there and just representing for the Latino culture, and I felt very proud. So I just loved it.
Yeah,
It's
man,
like
I'll
brilliant.
definitely watch that with my kids. I need that. I need those recommendations. That's amazing.
Awesome.
Oh, it's so good.
Maya and Steve?
Maya and the Three. So good. And let's get into what's a show or movie that gets you in like that Halloween spirit. Daniel, you want to kick us off?
With a bullet, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that one. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Tell us about why that's a go-to for you.
Well, look, I will confess that the incessant soundtrack, like after a little while, like there's a period where your kids, when they love something, they'll play it 9,000 times. So I can't believe I'm actually saying that, but I still find it really charming. Even that's a testament to how wonderful the piece of work is, because I have seen it like 900,000 times, and I still enjoy it. I don't know. It's a world, and it's sort of Tim Burton at the height of his powers, and there's something so, I also just love the mashup of Christmas and Halloween within it, and there's just something so, like I love a broken fairy tale, because that's kind of what life is, and kids are like, the kids just worshipped it, and I don't know. Maybe it's just my children endeared me to it. Perhaps that's just it, but it is kind of lovely.
I love that. Kristen,
Oh yes, yeah.
what is the movie or show that gets you?
Oh, I decided to go with the Book of Life, which is we were already talking about Jorge R. Gutierrez, so I had to go with that. Again, just stunning animation. He really connects all the worlds together. Just a really beautiful story diving into like Dia de los Muertos, and just like the colors and the animation. And he just does a beautiful job of bringing out like that Mexican influence. So yeah, what about you, Yael?
I go to a classic from my childhood, Casper.
Oh, wow.
I talked about it before. It is definitely the movie that helped me figure out who I am as a person, seeing Devon Sawa and Christina Ricci together, and I went, got it, I see this. So
yeah, well, Christina Ricci is amazing, by the way. I've recently met her. Well, in the last couple of years, we've got to know each other.
I'm so jealous.
She's she's an amazing person, and obscenely funny. The emphasis on that adverb, by the way, obscenely funny. She's a really, really hilarious person. So
it's great to hear.
And it sort of delights me to see her in these innocent roles.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is like, in my mind, it is the Halloween movie. It's got the like scary aspect of ghosts. It has the funniness. It has costumes. It has teen angst. It has romance. Like Casper. What more do you need for Halloween? Casper.
Very true.
And our last question: what is a show or movie that you continuously go back to, Daniel?
Yeah, so Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master that's oh god, he's so creepy. I mean, what is Joaquin ever not creepy? I don't even think he would. argue that. Like, no, there's something about that movie. It's kind of Shakespearean in scope, and I feel that every time I return to it, I discover something new. I'm sure you guys have your movies, um, and I love that. To me, Philip Seymour. Well, it's one of Philip Seymour Hoffman's last films, which is who was I think one of the greatest actors around, and the dueling between those two was just stunning. And I felt like Paul Thomas Anderson was representative of higher self, and I felt that Joaquin was representative of the natural animal self, and I actually felt like they were kind of one person. I could be completely misinterpreting Paul Thomas Anderson's film, but that's that's the lens through which I look at it. And there's something and he could have said it within any context, and the fact that he sort of made it Scientology-esque and L. Ron Hubbard-ish, there's something so beautiful in every moment, every glimpse of that film, and it just seems like one of those unassailable masterpieces. Wasn't exactly received as well as some of his other films, but I think it's like honestly one of the most, if not the most important film of the last 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm making big statements there. By the way, Terry Gilliam, that's who we were trying to think of before when we were talking about
Oh, yes.
the director of Brazil. Terry Gilliam, it just hit my head. All right, sorry.
Love it.
What about you guys? What's your go-to that you absolutely have to? I want to know, Kristen.
Yeah. Oh, me? Okay. Mine is a little cheesy, but it's The Babysitter's Club.
Wow.
I love the baby. I like grew up with the original books. I loved the show when it was on back in like the 90s. And they have this new version now that is just so beautifully done. You're following this group of girls that, focus on friendship, entrepreneurial like mindsets, and they're just like so empowering. Like even as like an old person now, I'm like, wow, like these girls are so inspiring.
Okay, let's pump the brakes for a second.
He's like, no, you're not.
How old?
She's
31.
the youngest person on this panel.
Okay.
I'm still in my 30s.
You don't get to say to people, look, do you think? Imagine if I was like conducting this with, I don't know, who's somebody kind of,
Betty White.
an older actor that I respect, like Anthony Hopkins. By the way, I'm not comparing myself to Anthony Hopkins. I'll let you do that. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I call myself old. Like, just stop it. Just stop with the old. Like, I'm an old person now. Or do you mean you're old by comparison to the children in the store?
Yes, old by comparison to the children in the store.
That's way more acceptable because I was just going to be like, get the hell out of here.
All right, I'll kick myself out of the chat.
Was my ex-wife in Babysitter's Club?
Yes, the movie. Yes,
in the movie.
Oh, she in the movie. The movie
from like the back in the day, not the new one.
Okay. Yeah, the one that. Okay, somebody's not talking about that one. I interrupted you, Kristen. I'm sorry.
Oh no worries.
You called yourself old and indirectly, inadvertently offended the hell out of me. What does that
I
make
didn't
me?
mean to offend you.
Am I a fucking fossil to you, Kristen? Beautiful,
Just to clarify,
I'm like a Jurassic 5, a T-Rex.
No. I'm just old compared to the kids that are like 13.
I'll brush the cobwebs off myself. So I'll go back to my fucking crypt after this. All right, yeah, Kristen, I interrupted you so much now. Yeah, what's your go-to that you absolutely have?
So I keep going back to the series 12 Monkeys, which, well, what a terrible photo I picked. The series of 12 Monkeys, you can watch the whole thing on Hulu. If you've seen the original movie, which, yes, was good, and I personally don't think holds up very well, the series is different. It's more about time travel. And personally, I think I've said this before, helped me really understand vaccines and a virus and like a global pandemic in a way that I didn't understand before watching the series a second or third time. So I recommend 12 Monkeys if you like sci-fi. Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you a big sci-fi person, Daniel?
I love good sci-fi. That's like saying I love good anything, right? Damn it. Names are so elusive to me today. By the way, Terry Gilliam directed the first 12 Monkeys, so you should have remembered that. You should have called me on that. Alex Garland's, sci-fi is amazing. And anything that guy touches, I think, is really interesting, even if it doesn't quite work. Some of his stuff doesn't quite work, but I think he's only moving from strength to strength. Like he's getting better all the time. And I thought, Ex Machina was fascinating. I like simple sci-fi. I really Charlie Brooker's Black Mirror is that. I mean, there's not even a bad one. Like even the ones that I'm less inclined to watch are still really exciting to me. Like, there's not much that if Black Mirror has released, what is it, 2 or 3 a season, or sometimes 4. If it dropped tonight, that's all I would do tonight. That's all. I wouldn't matter. I would sleep for 2 hours or whatever and get up and get the kids to school in the morning. I gotta have to watch them all. I like so that kind of sci-fi I'm really into. Out of curiosity, because nerds seem to love and worship Dune. Look, I'm a nerd, so I can say that. Use that word. They love Dune. They treat Dune as if it's kind of like he's Frank Herbert, like he's the Tolkien of the sci-fi world, right? And so I read Dune last year, and I got to say, and this is going to make me incredibly unpopular. I don't care. I love the world. I love the ideas, and I think it's not. I can totally see why it inspired all these imaginations. And you can see its ripple effect throughout. A lot of sci-fi, including Star Wars and etc. But I didn't think he was a very good writer. I just didn't think I didn't think Frank Herbert's a very good writer, and I thought that I was. People tell me that you've got to soldier through the next 2 books, and then apparently, like, I think it's called, I don't know, Gods or Emperors of Dune. I don't know. Like, by the way, I'm going to get so much hate for this, but I thought it was fine. I think Denis Villeneuve's version of it is interesting. It looks like they're going to do it in 3 parts. I was wondering how they were going to do it in a movie. I didn't realize they were doing it in 3 parts. But I think that guy creates really interesting worlds. They don't always move, with terrific momentum. But I guess I kind of like a slow burn. Anyway, I'm answering this far too lengthy way.
I feel like, if I understand correctly, you seem to really like very intellectual, like sci-fi that asks a lot of fascinating questions.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the place for it, like, even, I mean, I feel like Tarkovsky's Solaris, was kind of a very original way to sort of go into that, because sci-fi just doesn't date very well, right? It doesn't date very well, but the only way it does date well is if you kind of keep things, relatively simple. Although that said, I don't know. I mean, James Cameron was swinging for the fences when he made Aliens, and Aliens is still, to my mind, one of the best alien action films I've ever. That's one of the best sci-fi films, and it's also one of the best. That's one of the best movies about motherhood I've ever seen. I think, if you like, in terms of like the theme of motherhood, there's nothing better than James Cameron's Aliens. I actually think it's his best. It's his best movie, that he's never topped that. Love that movie. I kind of want to watch it again even now.
Yeah, I'm curious if, since you like, like kind of sci-fi that makes you think, have you checked out the OA?
Yeah, I did. What happened there? I watched like the first 1 or 2. I don't know what it was. I think it was. I remember thinking, this is really good. I don't know why I didn't continue.
Well, there's only 2 seasons, unfortunately, but I would go back. It's so good. They dive into like near death experiences and other dimensions, and just this stuff that, like, I think on a first watch it's like, what are they doing? And then when you watch it again, you're like, whoa, this was insane.
I think if we learned anything from this interview, it's that I'm a quitter. I'm a fucking quitter. Because
No.
how good the thing is, I seem to just go, yeah, whatever, and get out of there. I'm sorry, yeah.
You're a busy guy.
I owe everybody an apology. Yeah, I'll definitely go back to that. Thank you for the recommendation. I'll do that.
Totally. Well,
Wow.
that's all of our questions. We got great recommendations off of you now. And do you want to share where people can check out your film and other projects you're working on and just follow you in general?
Jesus, I should have known that this was going to be asked of me. Well, yeah, you can. So, uh, Coming Home in the Dark is currently it's pay per view right now. You can rent it on Amazon Prime. On jeez, I should know all this. Voodoo. I think it's on Xbox and like most streaming platforms. You can rent us from. But yeah, Coming Home in the Dark. I do not. It is not a date movie, as it says. As one of our critics said, it's not for the faint of heart. It really isn't. It's not. It's truly terrifying, and so you sort of. I don't think you need to be psychologically ready, but I wouldn't have children around. Let's just put it that way. But it's. I promise you, Coming Home in the Dark as a movie is an experience that you almost never have. Like I'm never frightened at the movies. I might be by when I'm bludgeoned with special effects and sound and noise and everything, but this movie is it's ferocious and it has real talons.
Oh wow. Yes, absolutely. And where can people find you to keep up with what you're doing?
I don't even know what my handles are on things. I'll look it up now. I guess it's on my phone.
So I can tell you, Daniel J. Gillies is your Twitter because I used it before.
Yeah. Okay, God bless you. So Daniel J. Gillies is my Twitter. I don't actually know what my Instagram is. I think it's Mr., but I don't know if there's a dot. There is. It's a Mr. Daniel Gillies, and that's me on Instagram. I guess go and see me there if you want. But I'm not bullying anybody towards it. But yes, Mr. Dan. But you know what? I should be pushing people towards it so they can so I can push the movie there. I'm being responsible.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This was such a fun conversation, and I hope everyone goes and checks out everything that you're working on.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, you guys. Lovely to meet you both.
You too.
See you later.
All right, we are going to continue with our fan casting. We are fan casting Halloweentown.
Oh yeah.
We have been waiting for this.
But what's so fun is we did this a little bit differently because I think we can all agree that Kimberly J. Brown is the only Marnie. She is the only Marnie. So what we decided to do was instead of fan casting the original Halloweentown, we created our own Halloweentown stories for a spinoff. So I'm excited to talk about this.
Would you like to begin?
Oh, sure. Okay. So in my Halloweentown, what I decided, well, obviously Marnie is Marnie. Kimberly J. Brown is Marnie. Yeah. And I wanted to keep in line with the original film. So Judith Hoag.
Did you freeze or did I freeze? One of us has frozen.
Are you back? Are we there?
Are we back? Hello.
I think we're back. We both left and went to a different dimension. We went to Halloweentown and came back.
Judith Hoag.
Judith Hoag as the grandmother type figure. And then, of course, you need the three kids, right? You need the one that loves magic, the one that's a little bit skeptical, and then the little one. So what I decided to do was in this world, Marnie marries Cal because I want to believe that that's, a true love pairing. It's a true love in real life. And so I want it to translate to the screen. So something happens, whatever happens, Marnie and Cal end up together and they have a daughter, McKenna Grace playing their daughter. I feel like, she is a very acclaimed actress. She's still, a young actress that I think would do a good job playing a witch. And she's been a witch before. She played young Sabrina in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And so then in this world, they live in Halloweentown, right? And so does Sophie and her husband. but Sophie and her husband have been taken. So their journey in this movie is going to be to find them. But so that means that uh, their young son, played by Liam Diaz, he's so cute. Also lives in Halloweentown, and the two of these characters, the two little cousins, are friends. They live in Halloweentown, but on Earth is Dylan's kid, Anais Lee, playing the daughter, and she's the skeptical one, like him. She didn't even know that Halloweentown existed because there's been some, family controversy or whatever. So like Sophie and Marnie are in Halloweentown and Dylan is on Earth and they don't really communicate. But now they have to join forces and everyone has to come together to save Sophie and her husband from some evil force that I don't know what it is yet. But that's my story. These are the kids. And thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So,
okay, yes, tell me yours.
Very similar.
Oh, okay.
First and foremost, we agreed Marnie is Marnie. Kimberly J. Brown is the only Marnie.
Yes.
And I do love the idea of Judith Hoag as the grandmother figure.
She's got to come back.
She's got to
keep a legacy.
Especially because Aggie is no longer with us. So I decided that Marnie lives in Halloweentown and is adopting young witches. And so, because she is single, and this is going to be how she meets Cal and they get back together.
Ooh.
But so she has a adoptive daughter played by, is it Mia or Maya Ketch?
I'm not sure, but either way, I think she's great. So
she's wonderful. And her sister Sophie also, of course, lives in Halloweentown. And I switched it up where she has a skeptical kid. And the skeptical kid that I went with was actually our previous guest, Jaden Triplett. Thought it'd be so cute. And then Dylan, who, as we know, was the skeptic. I chose actually somebody who I think would be so fun to see as his, like, he was type A, like very stuck in his ways, stick in the mud kind of guy. So his daughter is going to be played by Quinn Copeland, who was on Punky Brewster, and I wanted to play a very similar character on Punky Brewster, who like was always trying to run away and was a little rebellious girl, and so that was the story that I came up with.
I love it. Yes. Oh, this is so good. We should just. I want these to be a reality. We need a Halloweentown spin-off, where they bring Marnie back and it's her kids. That's what I want to see.
Well, that's it. Before we go, we want to remind you that the Hollywood Critics Association has a lot of amazing content coming out every week. For example, you can check out Pop Council on Mondays, What to Stream on Thursdays. There's so much more on this channel. And thank you again to our guest, Daniel Gillies. That was a fascinatingly amazing conversation. I'm so glad we got to talk to him. Until next time, Kristen, where are you on the internet and what are you up to these days?
I am everywhere on the internet at Kaymaldo, Kaymaldo. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook at one at the end. I'm on Instagram. I've just been like working on videos. I made a new site called Pop Culture Planet that is connected to my podcast. So for those of you who might not know, Pop Culture Planet is a podcast where you can where we talk about like representation and inclusion and diversity. And now there's a whole website which will also feature like more news articles and my videos and the podcast and everything, just more entertainment. And yeah, what about you, Yael?
I love that. I am everywhere at Yael Tygiel. That is YAELTYGIEL. Keep an eye out there, and I will tell you where to find me on all the other things that I do. But yeah, just keep up with me on social. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.